Anna, midwife, aka Midwife Ali, and welcome to our very first actual video, because the first video was more of an introduction, so this really is my first actual video. It's going to be more of a vlog type. So I did have my first visit, I think a few days back, and I kind of recorded the steps as we went along, and we're going to go through it today. We're going to go through it, going to go through the video, going to go through everything that happened, and then I'm just going to talk through all the processes and what to look forward to when you go to your first visit. So this is me, fully dressed, ready to go, nice and simple. I decided to go with these shoes. The reason I actually chose a black top, guys, was because I knew if I wore it with leggings, it'll kind of look like that play suit kind of thing. This is my bump at the moment. I'm currently around 14 weeks, not much, just a tiny little stump. I don't know if you can see that. That is about it. So the first thing I did when I went in was I checked in. Obviously, due to COVID and what is 2020, your partner can't come with you, so you're kind of left to go in yourself, whether your partner parks outside the hospital and just waits for you,
yeah,
or whether he just goes about. In my case, I just told him to go to work because I didn't think it was necessary for him to kind of follow me ahead. And keep in mind, guys, I do work in the hospital, so in a way I already know all the processes. He's been there, he's done that, so he kind of knows there's not much for him to do in that first visit anyways. So we were happy enough for him. I was happy enough for him to just go to work as usual. So the first thing we did was the BMI check, so which is kind of your body mass index check. They do a weight check on your first visit. It is extremely important, guys. Reason being, if your BMI comes up higher than average, which either could mean you're a little bit overweight or obese. Now bear in mind, guys, when you go for your check and they're saying your BMI is coming up overweight and obese, like, the BMI scale is crazy. Like you could be the skinniest person, but because you're really tall, your BMI comes up. But because you're really short, your BMI comes up obese, but yet you look skinnier than somebody that's taller. Like, if it makes sense, it kind of goes according to your height. So just because the BMI says you're overweight or obese is no reason to feel like, oh my god, I need to lose weight or anything like that. It is just the way the scale is. It is what it is. Now, however, if the BMI does come up a bit high, it just determines whether they need to do a GCT, which is the glucose challenge test. This test is normally done between 24 to 28 weeks of pregnancy, kind of around that 24, 28 weeks. What that tests for is for gestational diabetes. So when we say gestational diabetes, it means something that was developed in pregnancy. So gestational diabetes would be pregnancy related. Now, however, although the normal testing usually is 24, 28 weeks, it can be tested earlier. People with kind of either family, whether you have a family history or somebody that comes in and you can, as a midwife working, you can almost kind of tell straight, this person might be a little bit more on the obese side. So either if somebody is seen to be obese or has a really bad family history of diabetes in the first place, they can be tested earlier. It's not a case where you have to wait till from 24 to 28 weeks. There are circumstances where you are tested earlier. Now, that being said, and if you get an abnormal GCT test early in pregnancy, a lot of times that's more of an indication that you may have type 2 diabetes outside of pregnancy that has just gone undetected. So the next thing we did then was a history taken. So history taken is where you're basically called into a room then by another midwife. This is done, the reason you're called into a room is because, well, you need your privacy. You're called into a room by another midwife and they kind of go through your history, your family history. This is really important in kind of planning a woman's care through the pregnancy. Just to individualize the care, it is important to remember that every woman is different. So midwives kind of take this and they kind of question you or anything about your history, whether it is you've ever had any medical procedures, any surgeries in the past, any kind of personal history, whether you've gone through a history of depression or you're currently going through therapy for anything. It is kind of important that midwives know all that, so that way they know the best way to kind of help you afterwards. Because pregnancy is an extremely hard time and a lot of people can go through depression, and if you're already somebody that is already going through anxiety or depression yourself, it is a good idea to let your midwife aware of that. Consideration is also taken for the woman's kind of racial backgrounds. Reason for this, it's not anything to do with kind of racism or anything like this. The reason for this is that midwives do have to take into consideration that depending on where you're from, you could be at higher risk of certain things. For example, the African kind of background, with African background, you'd be more high risk of things like sickle cell and the Tay-Sachs disease, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is more commonly found in the Jewish. So at least if your background is kind of known, certain things then aren't really a surprise. Whereas if you're from a culture where you wouldn't really get these diseases, they want to kind of know, is there something else underlying? It's really important, if possible, to get genetic history about the father of the fetus as well. A family history from the father of the fetus, if possible. If midwives are aware that some women are going through pregnancy themselves, they might not be in contact with the father of the baby. They're not asking you these questions to make you feel uncomfortable in any way. It's more of a way to fully assess you fully assess the baby and give you the best care possible. Once I had my history taken, I was given then a urine pot. I was given a urine pot then to do a urine sample. Routine urine sampling will be taken at every antenatal clinic. It's a really good way to assess so much of a woman's health, of a woman's condition during her pregnancy. So every antenatal visit you get, whether it's booked or whether you're going in because you're worried about something, a urine test is vital. So this is done to check your protein level, your glucose level, your ketone level, your leukocyte level. There are a few other things that they do check, but those are your main important one, being protein, glucose, leukocytes and ketones. Those are your main important ones. Protein in the urine is extremely important, especially if you're somebody if you have protein in your urine and then you've got high blood pressure kind of to back it up, it can be a sign of preeclampsia. Now, early pregnancy, it is hard to say. If you're somebody that struggles with high blood pressure outside of pregnancy in the first place, or whether you're already on blood pressure tablets, they will keep extreme close eye on you. A lot of times in early pregnancy, you can give a urine sample and it may just be contaminated. Reason for this would be kind of like vaginal discharge, which every pregnant woman gets at the beginning of their pregnancy. So it does increase, vaginal discharge does increase in pregnancy. So sometimes you might get a urine sample that is just contaminated just because of vaginal discharge. What the midwife may ask you to do then is give what we call a clean sample. So they give you a little pink solution, you pour it onto a cotton wool, give a few wipes down below just to kind of make sure everything is clean down below, kind of get rid of the discharge, and then redo your urine sample. And that kind of gives you a clear indication whether the protein is there to stay or if it's more just contamination. Ketones is usually a sign of dehydration per se. So ketones in the urine is usually a sign of dehydration. It can be present due to kind of excessive vomiting. So say in the first few weeks of your pregnancy, you've gone through hyperemesis per se. Hyperemesis is what we call excessive vomiting, basically, is where some women in the first few weeks of the pregnancy just vomit and just can't keep any water down, can't keep any food down, and in some cases do have to be admitted into hospital for IV fluids. In other cases, they can manage to eat some meals and maybe only get sick once or twice a day for a few days, where they can manage and they can still manage to get something in. But ketone can be a sign of dehydration. It does occur in the urine where people have been vomiting a lot, and sometimes as well when you just haven't eaten much during the day. Keep in mind that in early pregnancy, a lot of women are still working quite a lot. If you're vomiting, you don't have appetite, you're going about your day as usual, you're going about work as usual, you're going about whatever you would have done before pregnancy came about, and because you're trying not to vomit, you might be avoiding eating certain things, and without even realizing you've gone a whole day without eating a proper meal. And sometimes that can cause ketone in your urine as well. And the other thing then they'll be looking for is glucose. Again, glucose can indicate gestational diabetes, which previously said they do kind of check for 24 to 28 weeks, depending on your BMI. Sometimes you could have an absolutely normal BMI, you could be at a perfect weight, but if you have that glucose in your urine, it is an indication to have your glucose challenge test, to have that glucose test done, even though your BMI is completely normal. Now, the other thing that they do look out for in the urine test as well is leukocytes. Leukocytes in urine usually suggest the presence of infection somewhere. This is the same test that you would have GPs use for kind of whether it's UTIs or kidney infections. So it can be a sign that you have an infection somewhere, whether it's a UTI brewing. You know, UTIs are so common in pregnancy that sometimes you get the symptoms, you get the leukocytes in your urine, but you never actually get sick from it, and then it just clears itself. I suppose it is important though for your GP to have that, for whether it's your GP or your midwife, to have that sample of urine sent off to the lab then if it does have leukocytes, so that they can analyse it. And now in my case, you would have noticed in that video, in that little short clip, that I did get an MRSA swab. This is only for healthcare professionals now. So because I work in a hospital setting, I did have to get an MRSA swab, which is just something extra that you wouldn't be getting if you don't work in a hospital. This is literally just a nasal swab, a throat swab, and then a groin swab. Just kind of checks for any MRSA infections that you may have contaminated from the job or wherever. So what we did then is I got my blood test, I got my FBC, which checks my HB, which can indicate whether your iron level is high or low. That just kind of tells you whether you need to start taking iron supplements earlier. We do kind of advise that at some stage you eventually do start taking iron supplements, but I suppose having your iron level at the beginning will kind of indicate, do I need to take it straight away? What do I need to take? Can I go for something as strong as Galfar, or can I go easier with the Ferrograd? It just kind of indicates where you're at with your iron level. They do check your blood group, which is important in case you do end up needing any blood transfusions of any sort for any reason through this pregnancy. So if you're getting your results back at the end of your chart, if they've done your blood group, which they always do, it'll come up in your chart as either A, B, O, or AB. So whichever A, B, O, or AB, those are the blood groups that will come up at the back of your chart. Your rhesus factor is something else that they do. So you can either be rhesus negative or you can be rhesus positive. If your blood comes back and you're rhesus positive, that's it. They do no further test is taken, nothing else is done. However, if you do come back and you're rhesus negative, if during the pregnancy you have any kind of fall, vagina bleeds, or even just like a bump to the tummy, whether it's walking into the door or a car crash, God forbid, anything like that kind of impacts on your bump, you do need to contact the hospital. You do need to ideally go to the hospital, because this most likely could mean you need an injection of anti-D. They do also check in that blood test, the same blood test, they do also check whether you're immune to rubella. Okay, so rubella, which is also known as the German measles. The German measles, they do check your immunity to rubella. If you're not immune to rubella, however, they will offer you a vaccine after you've delivered. Because you're pregnant now, they can't give you a vaccine during pregnancy, but they will most definitely offer you a vaccine after you've delivered. Now, however, with rubella, there are a few people that have had vaccines 2-3 times. Once you've had it more than twice or 3 times and it still comes up as if you're non-immune, it just means your body's rejecting it. There's nothing anybody can do about that. Now, if you are coming non-immune to rubella and you come in contact with anybody with rubella, also known as the German measles, guys, please contact your hospital immediately. Don't wait around. It's so important that you let the hospital know that you have been in contact with somebody with measles and you're non-immune to it. Other than that, you will be offered an immunization post-delivery. The other tests that the blood tests do take for, which would be your serology test, things like HIV, hepatitis, which is the inflammation of the liver, hepatitis and syphilis. You get your vital signs, excuse me, get your vital signs done, pulse, blood pressure, respiration rate, your temperature, your O2 stats, and it's the same as getting the urine sample done. Those basic vital signs are going to be done on absolutely every single visit you go on, because it's an indication of your health, it's an indication of how things are in your pregnancy, how healthy you are. If any steps needs to be taken, your vital signs will kind of indicate that as well. So your blood, pulse, BP and all that will be taken every visit, the same with your urine. The last final thing I did then before I left the hospital was an ultrasound scan. Ultrasound scans have become a routine part of antenatal care. However, they're not always necessary till the second trimester where you do your anomaly scan, but it is a nice part of your routine. It is a nice routine to have in your antenatal care, which is why I think a lot of hospitals have just made it routine with kind of each visit. So your early scan is only really routinely offered if you're not sure if you don't have a definite date for your last menstrual period. So they kind of use it then to scan the size of the baby, and that can give them an EDD, so an estimated due date. So if you don't know when your last menstrual period is, it's quite difficult to get an estimated due date. So in that case, then they will routinely offer you an early scan, just so you have an estimated due date, which is done by measuring the fetus. Other than that, it's not really routine. However, it is absolutely heartwarming and reassuring for women to have that scan done, especially when you're pregnant for the first time. This is your first visit to the hospital. I want to see that baby. You want to see the baby. You want proof that there's a baby. It's like, do you know what? I think for the first few weeks of pregnancy, you can just get sick and get sick and get sick, and you're thinking, am I really pregnant? I've had stories of women tell me where they've taken pregnancy tests after pregnancy tests, even after they've had the positive, because it's hard to believe when you're at that stage where you can't feel anything moving inside you. You don't have a bump. You might be getting sick here and there. It's hard to believe that sometimes that there's something inside you. So having that first visit, seeing a visual scan of the baby, guys, it is absolutely heartwarming. It is absolutely reassuring for women. So although it's not routine, it is something everybody loves. I'll just show you guys my scan from today. This is it. I don't know if you guys can see that. This is little Baba. This is little Baba. So as from the date of the scan, just see if it says, I don't think it says how many weeks I am, but I was about 14 weeks when that was taken. So 14 weeks on my first visit, which was a little while back. And you can see the little head there. Okay guys, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If I'm missing anything, comment in the comment section below. If you have any questions, comment in the comment section below. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. If you know anybody that's going through pregnancy at the moment, link them down below. Give them a few tips. Tell them to ask me questions. I'm happy enough to read all your questions. Guys, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe.